friend. Welcome. Welcome to Dancing Water. I'm Susan. I'm delighted that you're here, and I'm here to offer a Dancing Water daily practice that we call an Ajna practice, a self-guided practice that allows you to explore your connection with yourself and take it where you need it. And this week in our classes and our practice, we've been focusing on connection. And that is connection inward in order to connect outward. As we discover, as we do this mindful movement, this mindful practice together, we begin to realize that it's only by deeply connecting inward that we can truly connect with the people who matter to us. So, today I'm offering 3 different practices. 3 things that you can do for your body, for your mind, and for your heart. And I hope that you will take them and play with them and then see how they work for you. And I would love if you would then connect with me and the other people in the community to let us know how it goes. So the first one is a practice for the body. I call it counter movement. So it's very often that during the day that we do certain movements in for an extended period of time. And counter movements are a recognition that we are holding the body in a particular way and inviting a different, the opposite, a balance, a movement in order to create more balance in the body. So one movement that we all tend to do a lot is taking the wrist and having the wrist cocked. It's usually when we are driving the car, pushing the grocery cart, typing on the keyboard, we have our wrists pulled up. And so let me just show you a couple of things that you can do for that. I'm going to step back so that you can see me better. So one thing to do, we often do this prayer hands here with the thumbs to the center. But another way of doing that is taking the little fingers to your heart and your thumbs out. And moving your wrists a little bit up and down gives a little bit of a stretch, right? Taking the wrist in the opposite direction. And you can do the same thing. You can take it to the side and give a gentle pull to create a counter stretch. So you're opening the muscles on one side of the body that have been contracted. And most of us are usually dominant on one side or the other, and I just invite you to make sure that you do both sides. Another way of doing this that I really love that I learned in my yoga classes is a pose here by coming over and actually stepping on the soles of the palms of your hands with the soles of your feet. So your toes come right to your wrist creases, and then slightly bend your elbows and gently pull both hands. So you're creating some opening, I love this feeling, in the wrist joint. So you're actually pulling and opening the joint spaces in there. I love that for the possibility of creating some traction using the soles of the feet. And energetically, this is also a great thing to do for the body in that it basically connects a circuit through your body to have the soles of your feet and the palms of your hands pressed together. Another thing that most of us do a lot of the time is sit, walk, or run, right? So we do a lot of movement shortening the hip flexors. And if you've taken any of the Dancing Water daily practices that are restorative yoga, you will notice that I do several restorative poses that are designed to open up this space. So there's a couple of ways, there's lots of ways that you can do it, but I'm just going to show you a couple. One is one that I often will do if I'm like in line at the grocery store, if I'm waiting somewhere, is just stepping back and with this hip squeezing this buttock and just giving a little bit of a tuck of the tail underneath. And if you do this, you can feel that that contracts the muscles at the back of the body, which when we're sitting are flax and loose, and opening, stretching these muscles, which are usually contracted, right? So this is a more of an active way because you're using your muscular strength to create some opening and some stretch. Right, and this can really have a big impact on lower back pain. If that's something that is an issue for you, opening up these hip flexors at the front of the body, really important. Another thing you can do is just create some circles with your hips in both directions. Make sure when you're doing that you are not circling your knees. Notice that I can do this, and notice how little my hips are actually moving when I circle my knees. If I keep my knees soft and stable and turn at the hips, it's a very different thing. Very different thing. And one of the restorative poses that I really love is called supported bridge. And this is a passive way of opening up the hip flexor muscles simply by taking the sacrum and placing it, the low back, letting the low back be supported by, it can be a pillow, it could be a rolled up towel, it could be a yoga block. But you don't want to be actively doing anything here, just letting the weight of your body unwind this contraction at the front of the hip. I often watch TV like this. It feels really good. So, another example of a counter movement is that most of the time we have our feet flexed. And so what you want to do for a counter movement would be to take the toes and just push them down gently to open up the front of the ankle joint. And on most people, this is pretty tight, and this is very rare that we do this movement. So if you're sitting at your desk or in any chair, one of the things that you can do is just gently tuck your toes under and get a little stretch through the front of your ankles. Another way to do that is if you're on all fours, if you were doing some stretches through the spine, is to make sure that your toes are flat on the floor and just letting the weight of your ankles open up against the floor. Now, of course, you can do counter movements for any part of the body. It doesn't have to be just those. Those are just really common ones. But my invitation is to notice. So say you're holding in your shoulders are tending to do this. Maybe you find some kind of counter movement that balances the physical structure of your body. It's by being aware of what you tend to do and where you tend to hold tension that you can then connect with it with these counter movements. All right, so that's the body. That's one way of creating connection within your body. The second thing is an observation of your thoughts. So for many years in my own head, I really thought that my thoughts were true and that my thoughts were me. And it turns out that thoughts just come and go. And so a very powerful practice is to identify your thoughts. Just notice, that's a thought. I am thinking that. And getting some distance, getting some separation between you and your thinking. So there are lots of ways to do this. You can do it just by paying attention. And as some of you know, one of my favorite apps is called Insight Timer. It's a free app that has thousands of meditations. And this is a topic that you can find lots of meditations about. So I will put this in the notes below, a few ideas. One of them is actually a children's meditation, but it's the best one that I found, and it is applicable to all ages. So I will put a couple of examples, but you can poke around and find some great guidance to help you connect with your thoughts as thoughts, not facts. And then the third one is connecting with your feelings. So in my training as a NIA teacher, and also in my experience in coaching people in health and wellness, is that I'm very aware of our tendency in Western culture to have a very low emotional vocabulary, right? We might be able to say, I'm sad, I'm glad, I'm mad, right? But beyond that, there isn't much nuance. Most of us don't have a lot of facility. We can't always identify really how we're feeling. And this is really important. The more clearly I can identify the emotional state that I'm experiencing, the easier it is for me to communicate it to the people around me. But it's also a way for me to help connect with other people. I can help other people by identifying my own feelings and then potentially helping them identify theirs. And one of the things that I have been really enjoying lately is something called an app called the Mood Meter. So this is an app that was developed by Dr. Mark Brackett. He's the author of Permission to Feel. And he is encouraging us to develop our emotional, or what they call an EQ instead of an IQ. And it's an emotional intelligence. And that is really just by practicing identifying how we feel. It's a very simple app, and it has been so fascinating for me to a couple times a day to check in with the app, check in with how I'm feeling, and using the very simple grid that the app has to help me identify, like, oh, that's how I'm feeling. So I really recommend that. I think it's a 99-cent app, and I've already used it enough in 5 days to make it worth 99 cents. And I hope that that's true for you too. But do check that out. Mark Brackett also has a wonderful blog and some other online resources that I strongly recommend. And I believe that it is an essential part of connection with ourselves and with each other if we can identify our feelings. So, body, mind, and emotions. 3 ways of connecting that I really invite you to take out into your own days and find, how can I stay connected to myself and therefore connect more effectively, more authentically with the people around me. Friends, thank you so much. I look forward to hearing all about how you use all 3 of these tools and how I can help more. Go off, move, connect, stay real. Thank you so much for being here. Take care.